Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The horror of Tower Hill, London's brutal execution site. Throughout the centuries there have been many different execution sites used across England to take the lives of many condemned criminals. In Tudor England, there were many which were synonymous, including Tyburn, where many people were hanged, drawn and quartered. Also Smithfield in London became popular with burnings when Mary I burnt many people at the stake who defied her changes on religion. But there was one execution site that was linked closely to the most feared prison across the country, and a place where torture and execution occurred inside of the walls. Prisoners were taken from the Tower of London and were then taken to the public beheading spot on Tower Hill, a short walk north of the Tower's gates, and many were executed by axe here in brutal scenes. But what is the story behind the horror of Tower Hill? The Tower of London itself during the Tudor period became a place of execution, and it was notorious as two of Henry VIII's wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard, were beheaded on the scaffold on Tower Green. But the Tower is part of London, known as the Liberties of the Tower, and this was an area under the control of the Tower itself, which could exercise control over the land to make sure it stayed secure. One area of the Liberty was Great Tower Hill, which labelled all of the land lying to the north and to the west of the Tower, which included the London Wall and the area which today is around Tower Hill Underground Station. Tower Hill is a point of high ground that overlooks the River Thames, and it was here where the public beheading spot was established, a convenient place close to the Tower of London's walls, where prisoners would be kept inside before their executions. Executions that occurred inside the Tower of London were reserved only for the incredibly high-up members of society and royalty, and with this the common people were not allowed to be given a private execution. So the commoners and those deemed not royalty were taken from the Tower to Tower Hill to be executed in front of a huge crowd, and the crowds that gathered at the Tower Hill sometimes swelled well into their thousands. Stands would be created to witness the brutal proceedings, and at times these were so poorly built and were so busy that they collapsed and caused problems. Also at Tower Hill, crushes were common, where the crowd would rush to dip their handkerchiefs in the blood of the condemned criminal. The executions there were a sign of the king or queen's power over the people, and they sent a message to the people that you would die if you crossed the monarchy. At Tower Hill, executions were treated like a family day out and were seen as a public spectacle, and families would flock to see the axeman take someone's head clean off. Street vendors also sold snacks, and programmes documented the execution, and common execution methods were beheading, and this was considered the most dignified, but other methods took place there too. Hangings occurred there on a gallows, and this was usually done for lower class condemned people. But also burnings at the stake were used twice at Tower Hill, for two victims who were condemned of heresy. Also hanging, drawing and quartering took place at Tower Hill, despite Tyburn being the common place for this, and then heads would be taken on the short walk to London Bridge, where they were displayed in front of a huge crowd. Beheadings would usually result in this too, with an executed prisoner's head being placed on London Bridge nearby above the gatehouse. In 1485, a permanent scaffold was created for use during the executions, as beforehand there was no permanent structure where this happened. On the first execution to occur at Tower Hill, it was Simon Sudbury, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and he was seized during the Peasants' Revolt. He was taken from the Tower of London, where he was hiding by the rebels, and dragged to Tower Hill, where his head was hacked clean off his body by the baying crowd. Further executions during the Peasants' Revolt occurred on Tower Hill, but it was during the Tudor period where the executions on Tower Hill seemingly occurred on a weekly basis. During the reign of King Henry VIII, to establish his early reign and to win over his population, he brought the two unpopular advisers of his father's government, Edmund Dudley and Sir Richard Epsom, to Tower Hill, where they were both beheaded by axe. It became a place where traitors were killed, as the Duke of Buckingham, Edward Stafford, was executed there in 1521. But following Henry VIII's change to the church, Tower Hill became a place where some of the king's closest friends and advisors said their final words. John Fisher, the Bishop of Rochester, who opposed Henry VIII's changes to the church, was beheaded on Tower Hill by axemen, and then within a few weeks his friend Sir Thomas More, a key advisor to Henry VIII, also lost his head on the scaffold in front of a huge crowd. But following the downfall of Anne Boleyn, more executions occurred as George Boleyn, the Queen's brother, and 4 other men were executed as they were accused of sleeping with King Henry VIII's wife. Conspirators and suspected plotters involved in the Exeter conspiracy against the notorious Tudor king were also killed on the scaffold of Tower Hill, but one of the most shocking events to occur there happened in 1540, where Thomas Cromwell, the king's chief advisor, who was instrumental in the dissolution of the monasteries, made his way from the Tower of London to the scaffold. The sight of seeing the king's former best friend and closest advisor beheaded was a shocking one. But following King Henry VIII's death, more killings occurred there. During Edward VI's reign, Henry's only son, the king, ordered killing of the Edward Seymour, the first Duke of Somerset, and the Lord Protector, who it was deemed was stealing wealth and power from the monarchy. He died on the same scaffold as his brother Thomas Seymour did, and Edward even signed his brother's death sentence. But following Mary I seizing the throne, she ordered the execution of Lord Guildford Dudley, the husband of Lady Jane Grey, the Nine-Dane Queen, who Mary displaced off the throne. The execution continued throughout the 17th century and into the 18th century at Tower Hill, and with the final killing taking place in 1747, with Simon Fraser, the 11th Lord Lovat, being beheaded by axe. It was a place where botching executions took place and was synonymous. Taking someone's head in one clean stroke of the axe was considered a skillful and tricky thing to do, and with this Jack Ketch became known for being the botching executioner who has gone down in history as one of the worst. He took multiple swings to take the head off James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, and the crowd was so angered by this that a riot almost occurred, and many people warned Ketch off the scaffold next. Today, Tower Hill is a rather quiet garden and memorial site for those people who were executed during the centuries. It's a short walk from the hustle and bustle of the Tower of London, and in a much quieter space, but it's a space where many people lost their lives. The axe swung for centuries there, and it's a place where there was much bloodshed. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.